Welcome back, dear listener. How's your day? You're safe now, and it's time to drift into history's quiet shadows. Tonight we journey into the cold, stone walls of a forgotten prison, one that once echoed with silence and sorrow. Rest your eyes, and let the past murmur its tale. In a forgotten corner of medieval Europe, veiled by fog and ivy, stood a tower so ancient that even the villagers no longer remembered its name. The Forgotten Tower, as it came to be called, wasn't grand. Others swore he was a mad monk who had cursed a bishop. His real name was never known, but the children called him the Man in the Mask, for he had supposedly been locked away with an iron faceplate bolted over his head. It didn't reach toward the heavens like a king's castle. Its windows, if they could be called that, were nothing more than knife slits, wide enough to let in wind but not sunlight. Beneath the tower ran a network of tunnels, a crypt of earlier prisoners, some say. Bones were found there once, but the villagers buried them quickly, hoping to erase the past. He had been gifted the tower by the emperor for his loyalty, though loyalty in those days meant silence. The villagers found his wife's cries haunting the village the next day, but none dared speak of it. The poet's fate was sealed in the silence of the tower. Emmerich brought the tower back to life. Within weeks, his enemies began disappearing. Each level of the tower had 3 cells, all circular, with curved walls that echoed even the smallest breath, waste, or blood. There was no light in those cells, not even torches. Emmerich believed that darkness broke the soul faster than pain. It squatted low in the earth like a secret, its stones weathered, its iron gate forever rusted shut. But once, long ago, it was alive with whispers, with moans behind thick doors and chains that dragged slowly across damp stone floors. She was the midwife of a noblewoman who had died giving birth. Prisoners were thrown in through a hole in the floor, and that was it. No trial. No food, no name. Emmerich's grandson, more ruthless than his grandfather, ordered 15 villagers thrown in after they refused to give up their grain. The screams lasted for days. Emmerich accused her of witchcraft. In truth, Adela had done nothing but try to save the lady with herbs and prayers. Some hear the faint sound of a lullaby barely carried on the wind. No one ever left the Forgotten Tower. That was its only rule. It was said she sang lullabies in the dark for the ghost of the child she never got to deliver. And the Forgotten Tower was left behind. Its doors sealed, its keys lost to time. Her songs drifted through the cracks in the walls and made even the guards uneasy. The tower had been built in the 12th century during a time of unrest, when barons feared betrayal more than battle. It was a private prison, not for criminals of the village, but for enemies of the crown, or those whom powerful lords believed to be enemies. Sometimes simply knowing a secret could get you thrown into the tower. Sometimes a dream that didn't please the church was enough. The villagers near the tower, those who dared whisper of it, claimed the prison held only one man for over 30 years. Some said he had been a prince. Whether truth or tale, no one saw him enter. No one ever saw him leave. The central staircase spiraled downward instead of up, leading deeper into the ground with every level. At the bottom was the oubliette, a French word meaning to forget. The chains were unbroken, the door still locked. But Adela was gone. Many believe she simply faded away, swallowed by the grief and stone. But that's just one whisper in the dust. The Forgotten Tower itself was built low, surrounded by a forest of black pines. Its foundation was older than the tower itself. Roman, perhaps. No one ever did. In the year 1278, the tower was under the control of Lord Emmerich von Thurn, a cruel noble who believed torture was a divine gift. A poet who had dared to speak against him was dragged from his home at midnight. Emmerich didn't just imprison, he experimented. Inside the tower's second level, he ordered the cells to be altered. Walls thickened with clay to absorb sound, and drains in the center of the stone floor for, he was not wrong, one of the tower's most infamous prisoners was a woman named Adela. Her cell was on the top floor, the coldest part of the tower. One guard claimed that when he went to check on her after 3 months of silence, Her cell was empty. Some say she had escaped through the tunnels below. Others say she was never real. The tower's design was intentional. Every stone had a voice. Every creak in the wood echoed like a scream. It was a pit, no doors, no light. The oubliette was last used in 1312 during a peasant uprising. Then silence. The tower outlived the Emmerichs. By the 15th century, it had become obsolete. New prisons were built. New kings rose and fell. But travelers who pass through the woods at dusk claim they see candlelight flickering in the tower's slits. Others, those who dare to enter, say that the air inside is thick with something, unseen, as if the stone remembers. Perhaps it does. Because what is a prison if not a place where memory is chained? By the 15th century, the tower had faded from memory. Ivy choked its stone walls, birds circled wide around its roof, and even dogs avoided the trail nearby. No banners flew, no guards stood watch. It was no longer a prison, only a place where silence lived. Yet still people spoke of it, in low voices and warnings. One winter, a group of monks and scholars from a distant abbey arrived, drawn by rumors of old secrets. Of a noblewoman falsely imprisoned, tunnels buried beneath the tower, of relics forgotten by time. The villagers begged them not to go. One blind woman whispered, "The stones remember, and they speak." The scholars went anyway. They found the tower just before dusk, weather-worn, eerie, but strangely intact. The rusted iron gate gave way under their push. Inside, they discovered cells with chains still bolted to the walls, bowls frozen in place with rust. He laid a hand against the wall and froze. He felt a faint throb beneath the stone, like a heartbeat in hibernation. No bones, no ashes, only echoes. Brother Aldrich, the quietest among them, was the first to feel it. One eager scholar dug it open, revealing a tunnel older than the tower itself. Its walls were strange. Not rough stone, but smooth, bone-colored, and cold to the touch. He told the others, "This place isn't dead, just waiting." On the third level, they found a half-buried passage leading downward. At the arch of the passage was a single phrase carved in Latin, "Oblivio est misericordia." Forgetfulness is mercy. At its bottom, lantern light revealed torn robes, old shackles, and a rusted iron mask, human-shaped, watching. Inside, the air grew thick. The silence deepened. At the tunnel's end was a circular room, the oubliette, a pit with no exit. Aldrich stepped back, his voice tight. "We shouldn't be here." Another awoke in the wrong cell, the door locked from the outside. The youngest scholar, the one who dug open the tunnel, began muttering in his sleep, in voices not his own. They camped in the tower that night, the first in centuries. No signs of a struggle. The beds were still made, the books undisturbed. That's when things changed. One monk woke screaming, claiming a weight sat on his chest. The villagers told fewer stories and fewer people believed them. By morning, he was silent. Terrified, his eyes unfocused, mouth trembling. Aldrich insisted they leave, claimed to find the tower by accident. He painted it 3 times, by day, at twilight. And in a chilling final piece, showing blurred faces pressed against the stone from within, only one agreed. The rest stayed. Aldrich returned alone to the village. Weeks passed. No word came. Soldiers camped close by refused to enter. Dogs growled. One soldier claimed to see a woman in white watching from the top slit window. Eventually, a group of villagers, frightened but curious, went to the tower at dawn. They found no people. But in the center of the stone floor sat the mask upright, facing the stairs. Tourists rarely reach it, and when they do, they don't stay long. Watching the tower was sealed once more by time. Decay crept in. Ivy spread again. Generations passed. But the tower never truly disappeared. In the 1800s, a Viennese painter wandered into the forest while seeking inspiration. Viewers found the last painting disturbing. Some cried, others said it whispered, one man fainted. The painter burned the piece and left town without a word. During World War II, a shell landed near the tower but didn't explode. He deserted the next day. His captain mocked the fear, but slept with his back to the stone. Today, the tower still stands, Its location is hard to find. GPS fails. Paths curve away from it. Inside, the air is unnaturally still. If you press your ear to the stone, you might hear something breathing or remembering, because the tower doesn't haunt, it remembers, and it listens. In the early 1900s, the tower once again stirred from its silence, not physically, but through the curiosity of a man named Dr. Elias Varner, a historian of obscure medieval structures. He had spent years researching prisons lost to time. His fascination wasn't with castles or battles, but with walls that had witnessed suffering. He had read of the tower in a forgotten Latin ledger from 1324. One line captured him completely. The tower was never built to hold men, but to contain what they whispered. It was enough to send him across Europe in search of it. He arrived in the village unannounced, not in detail, but in the way one remembers a nightmare long after waking. They warned him, not with drama or superstition, just with tired eyes. Even silence doesn't rest inside that place. The villagers were not pleased. Time had changed them, but some still remembered the old stories. "You won't find peace there," said a cobbler. Varner thanked him and continued. He wanted to record ambient sounds. For research, he said. He also brought one book in particular, a collection of prison records allegedly recovered from the Emmerich estate. "I found the tower 2 days later. It was just as described. Crumbling, overgrown, half swallowed by the forest, yet still standing. Like the tower knew he had returned. Solid, watching." Varner brought tools, notebooks, candles, and a phonograph. He entered, he paused. Pressure touched his chest. Not pain, not fear, but a weight, like expectation. He lit a lantern and stepped inside. He stayed 3 nights. Each one, he recorded notes. Night 1. He was sitting at the base of the tower, barefoot, staring into the woods, live but speechless. The structure is more intact than expected. Air is dry. Strange how quiet the forest becomes after sundown. Night 2. Some said it was a witch's lair. Others believed it had been a monastery where monks practiced forbidden rites. Heard a low tone, not wind, a vibration from below. Possibly resonance from the tunnels? There's a pressure here. I dreamt of iron faces. At 3. I awoke to my own voice. The phonograph was playing something I did not record. It sounded like breathing in chains. After that, no further notes were found. They had found references to the forgotten tower in Varner's early publications. Sensing a mystery, they arrived with equipment, cameras, lights, sound gear. Varner was discovered 3 weeks later by hunters. His journals were intact, but pages were missing. Never spoke again. The mix would go dead when pointed at the stairs. The tapes glitched. One man swore he heard someone whisper his name, ... from the walls. For decades after, the tower was abandoned completely. It passed into folklore, its real history tangled with fantasy. But all versions agreed on one thing. No one stayed there long. In 1971, a documentary crew attempted to film a segment on European ruins. They planned a 2-day shoot. It lasted 5 hours. The footage was never aired. But among collectors of lost media, it became infamous. The surviving director, now elderly, once described it in an interview. Some call it a myth. Others, often quietly, say they've been there. The place didn't just resist being filmed. It swallowed sound. The final piece of usable footage was barely 5 minutes long. It showed the base of the tower, lit by harsh artificial light. The iron gate loomed open, motionless. Nothing stirred. Of people hearing voices they've never known, or remembering things they've never lived. Then, faintly, a figure at the top window, unmoving, shadowed. By the time the crew looked up, it was gone. In the years since, the tower has become the subject of obscure forums, horror podcasts, and forgotten books, and that something still lives inside. No preservation society claims it. Satellite images blur where it stands, not by editing, but as if the trees around it bend in just the right way to hide it. Not a ghost, not a spirit, but something old. Something woven into the stone. Theories abound. Some say the tower was built atop a Roman ritual site, that the oubliette below was never meant to contain people, but to feed something beneath. Others believe it was a punishment structure, built by the church to erase knowledge, trapping not only the body but memory itself. And a few, the quietest, believe the tower is a prison, not for men, but for time. They point to stories of visitors losing hours, of compasses spinning inside. The tower does not scream, it remembers. Memory, in its oldest form, is not a thing of warmth, it is a weight. Today, no signs mark the path to the tower, but those who seek it still do. Wanderers, historians, the curious, they go quietly. Some leave quickly, others don't leave at all. The tower watches, not with eyes, but with stone. And stone forgets nothing. The 21st century brought a new kind of curiosity to the forgotten places of Europe. Not historians, not monks, but digital wanderers, urban explorers, paranormal vloggers, seekers of the strange, young people with cameras, microphones, and a hunger for something that felt real in a world increasingly built of screens. The forgotten tower became a whisper again. But through second-hand directions, fuzzy satellite images, and vague village stories, some found it. It wasn't on any official list of ruins. It had no plaque, no tourist guide, no clear trail, not many, and fewer came back willing to speak. One of the earliest digital explorers was a quiet man from Poland who ran a small YouTube channel dedicated to haunted silence. He preferred no jump scares, no ghosts screaming, just long, quiet walks through dead buildings, capturing the natural stillness. A single shot, 1 hour long, no music, no cuts, just him walking toward the structure. He found the tower in 2009. His final video is still online. There's no narration, no voice, only his breathing and the crunch of frost beneath his boots. He never enters the tower. He walks around it once, then sets the camera down, facing the iron gate. For 20 minutes, nothing happens. Then, the faint sound of wind and a soft hum, like a lullaby, almost too low to hear. He says nothing, just slowly picks up the camera and walks away. He never uploaded again. Another came a year later, this one more confident, loud, skeptical, mocking. He went inside. The video never posted. His channel was deleted days later. All his equipment left in a hotel room, passport untouched, but the man gone, the only clue. Not because it was cursed. That word was too dramatic, but because it changed things. A voicemail sent to a fellow creator, timestamped 2:43 a.m. A whisper. I thought the door was open, but it wasn't. It let me in, then static. From then on, the tower was blacklisted by some in the online community. Not in big ways, subtle ones. There are no real battlements. The cell doors are unusually narrow, some no wider than the human body. People who visited reported gaps in memory, dreams of being underground. One woman claimed she woke up speaking Latin, though she never studied it. A man found an iron ring clutched in his hand one morning, rusted and ancient, with no explanation. It was too quiet, too present, too knowing. Those who study architecture have long been confused by the tower's design. It doesn't follow traditional medieval blueprints. The rooms spiraled down instead of up. The way they reflect sound, the pressure in the corners, the sense of being observed even when alone. I didn't hear voices. I heard my own coming from behind me, her paper never published. But in a private letter to a colleague, she wrote, "Worse still, the measurements don't match." From the outside, the tower appears to be 5 levels tall, but explorers consistently report 6, sometimes 7, and not always the same. The deepest room is always cold, it's always silent, and always watching. One British researcher, Dr. Marla Keane, visited the tower in 2016 after publishing a paper on psychogeographic anomalies in post-Crusade structures. She was a skeptic. She stayed inside the tower for 4 hours recording environmental data. The stones are wrong. She never entered a historical site again. Some believe the tower was never meant to keep people in, that it was designed to pull something down, not a person, not a creature, but remembrance itself. That every sorrow ever suffered within those walls did not fade, it nested. The village still whispered about the tower, and the boy was curious. layer by layer, breath by breath. Pain given a shape, not sharp, not violent, but slow. Like dripping water, carving stone, like silence growing roots. There's one final story, rarely spoken, not online, not published, only told from one person to another. Of a boy who lived near the edge of the forest, in a small house with a tired mother and an often absent father. He was 10 years old when he slipped away one autumn morning. He never returned. Search parties found nothing. But 3 days later, his mother awoke to find a single stone on her doorstep, perfectly square, warm to the touch. She kept it by her bedside for years, though she couldn't say why. Sometimes at night, she would wake up to hear humming. Familiar, soft, like a lullaby. Today, few speak the tower's name. It doesn't have one anymore. No marker, no sign, just forest, stone, fog, and silence. But sometimes, very late, someone will wander too far from the path. They may see a shadow in the trees, a shape that doesn't move, a feeling like being watched gently, not cruelly, but with recognition. And if they listen very carefully, they may hear it. A soft sound, not breathing, not whispering, but remembering. Some places remember, not with memories like ours, but with space, weight, and silence. The Forgotten Tower is one of them. People who've never heard of it still feel something when they wander too close. A tightening in the chest. A cold breath without wind. An urge to turn around for no reason. It's instinct, kind shaped by centuries of stories, even if the words are lost. In 2021, a hiker took shelter near the tower during a storm. His GPS showed 2 hours had passed, but his watch said 7. He laughed it off at first. Then the dream started. He dreamed of being chained, of metal bowls and dripping water, someone calling his name, in a language he didn't know. He moved away within a month, he said. It's not that the tower followed me, it's that it noticed I left. The tower doesn't haunt, it listens, it doesn't speak, it remembers. Folklorists say it wasn't built to hold people. They say it was made to store something else entirely. Regret, the kind that echoes. A nobleman named Gaspard vanished near the tower in the 1600s. His servant came back days later, babbling about sorrow that had a shape, a place that eats memory. When he calmed down, all he said was, he remembered something he was never meant to. No one ever found Gaspard. Some people visit and feel nothing. They say the tower is peaceful, but weeks later they change. One man rebuilt a spiral staircase over and over. A woman stopped speaking. Another became obsessed with clocks that tick too slow. Maybe the tower doesn't always show itself. Maybe it waits. There's a theory whispered only in strange circles that the tower was indeed built by masons at all. It formed itself. From echoes. From things that should have been forgotten, but weren't. A structure made of sorrow. Electronic tools fail inside. Cameras blur. Recorders crackle. Batteries die faster than they should. A researcher once said, "It's like the tower doesn't want to be seen clearly." Some visitors find a room that shouldn't exist. No door, just a chair. And on the wall, a sentence scratched deep into the stone. Now you know. They don't say what they saw. They just go quiet. Footsteps are often heard. Not quick, not threatening. It's just slow. Constant, somewhere deep below. As if someone is walking in a circle. Always. No map of the tower is ever the same. Some drawings show 5 floors. Others show 7. One had 10, spiraling inward. One visitor said it made sense while I was in there, but when I came out, nothing lined up. And there's the humming. Low, gentle, like someone comforting a child. Even when the tower is empty, especially when it's empty. People still go. They don't announce it. They just leave. Some come back quiet. Others don't come back at all. Those who return, listen longer, speak slower, and sometimes, just sometimes, they hum. The tower doesn't move. It doesn't whisper or shift. It simply waits, like it always has. In 2022, Noor traveled alone through the quiet parts of Europe. She wanted peace, not comfort, not adventure, just silence. She found the tower by accident. The path wasn't marked. The trees leaned away from it. The air felt wrong, heavy and still. She stood before the gate, not afraid, not brave, just still. She touched the iron bars, cold, rusted, familiar. She whispered, "I'm sorry," and walked away. She never spoke of it again. But years later, her children would find her standing in the dark, humming a song no one knew. The tower has no story carved in stone, no name, no founder, just presence. Some say it was built around something older than memory. Others believe it was never built at all, just formed. A monk once entered and wrote, "These walls are not stone, they're weight-shaped." He was never seen again. Inside, light bends, shadows stretch or vanish. Some rooms echo before sound is made. Others swallow voices whole. The silence is not empty. It's listening. People say they hear footsteps in the lower halls. Not fast, not hostile. Just slow, careful steps, going nowhere. No one can agree on the layout. 5 floors, 7, 10. All drawings differ. A door sometimes appears. A plain room inside. 1 chair. And on the wall, now you know. No one explains what they learned. They just go quiet. Children nearby play a game. They call it the tower door. They sit in silence and hum. If the note is right, the wall hums back. No one knows who taught them. They just know. A linguist once brought a recorder. She heard only wind while inside. Later, the audio whispered, "You brought me out," in Arabic. She never translated the rest. She burned the tape and quit her research. One tale tells of a man who lost everything. He begged the tower to take his memories. He stepped inside. 3 days later, someone in the forest heard soft weeping. Not grief, not pain. Something like relief. The tower isn't cruel, but it isn't kind either. It doesn't trap, doesn't chase. It waits. People have tried to destroy it. Nothing worked. Tools snapped. Workers fled. Some vanished. A nobleman who ordered the demolition vanished too. His name was erased from every family ledger. Some believe the tower stores what history can't carry. Unspoken guilt, unforgiven grief, unwanted memory. That every breath inside becomes part of it. The air grows heavier near the center. Not choking, but deep. Like breathing through water. Sometimes people see a flicker of someone else. Not a ghost, not a shadow. Just a shape too familiar to be a stranger. No one ever finds that shape again. Years later, visitors report strange changes. They forget important dates. They avoid mirrors. They hum without knowing it. The melody always sounds like something they once knew, but can't quite name. A boy once sketched the tower for memory. His parents were confused. He'd never been near it. When asked where he saw it, he simply said, "I don't remember." But it remembered me. And sometimes, on very still nights, far from its gates, people pause, feel watched, hear a breath that isn't theirs. That's when they remember. They were near a tower once. The tower never forgets. Not every place becomes legend because of what happened there. Some are remembered because of what they won't let go. The tower is one of them. Not marked on maps. Not spoken of in guidebooks. But known. Quietly. Deeply. Universally. A hiker from Austria once called it the shadow between places. He meant it literally. A structure that only appeared when you weren't looking for it. He didn't take pictures. He said the camera lens fogged over each time he raised it. He described narrow windows with no glass, an iron ring hanging from a stone arch, and the faint sound of dripping, though it hadn't rained for days. It only stayed 20 minutes. Afterward, he wrote in a blog post, "It didn't want me. It was waiting for someone else." The post was deleted the same week. Another visitor, a geologist named Clara, studied the foundation. She said the rock under the tower was wrong. Not local, not natural. She called it remembered stone. A phrase she couldn't explain. The core sample she brought back turned to dust in storage. No explanation. Some rooms inside are small and square. Others are impossibly long, like a hallway that leads through time. There's one corridor that echoes before you step into it. Not your footsteps, someone else's, walking slowly. Those who enter say they feel watched, not with eyes, with awareness. Like the walls know how long you stay. The air is dry, yet tastes like iron. Candles flicker even without wind. One staircase loops tighter than the body can turn. People climb it anyway. They forget where they started, forget they're climbing, and sometimes they forget who they were. A woman once claimed she left the tower a different person. Same name, same voice, but not the same memories. She remembered a cell, a metal tray, the sound of someone humming near her shoulder. She never found anyone else inside. That same humming has been recorded by multiple people. The lyrics, no origin, just low, slow notes, too soft to disturb, too steady to ignore. It's the kind of melody you'd hear in a cradle, or a crypt. The tower doesn't stop you from leaving, but something inside you hesitates. Not fear, not confusion, quiet reluctance. Like you've left something behind, but can't name it. There are no chains, no locks, no threats, but the door always feels heavier on the way out. The few who return speak differently, their pauses are longer, their eyes wander more, and when you ask about the tower, they smile like they don't remember, or wish they didn't. Someone once tried to sell a stone they took from inside. It vanished from their apartment. Later, they found a different object in its place, a single feather. Black, bone dry, wrapped in linen that smelled faintly of ash. There is no official record of people living there, but some say, on certain nights, one of the tower's windows glows faintly, like a lantern, or a memory refusing to die. In rare cases, people report dreams of the tower long before ever finding it. They see stone halls, narrow stairs, a single round window with frost on the inside. One boy dreamed of holding a rusted key. When he woke, his palm was bleeding, shaped like a loop. Another dreamed of a locked door. When she passed by the tower years later on a hike, she fainted at the gate. She said, "That's where the door is, but I never unlocked it." There are no animals near the tower, not birds, not insects. Even moss avoids its base. But inside, explorers have reported strange signs of life. Footprints and dust. Cups half filled with water. Single coat hanging on a wall. Always to modern. Always to clean. The tower is not alive, but it knows how to echo things that once were. When you leave, you may feel lighter. Not better, just less. Like a word you meant to say, but forgot. Like a name on the tip of your tongue. Some believe the tower doesn't want to harm anyone, just wants to be remembered. And so, it gives you a piece of itself. A note, a shadow, a melody. Not enough to scare you, just enough to make you wonder, was it real? Or was it something you were always meant to find? There is no official entrance, no stone arch, no grand door, no inscription, just a break in the wall where people walk in, forget how they came out. Those who return always describe it the same way. I left, but not all of me did. Inside, time folds. Not fast, not slow. It folds sideways, quietly, like a page creased by accident. One woman said she saw her own footprints, ahead of her. Perfectly placed, already there. A poet once spent the night inside the tower. He came back pale, unshaven, shaking. Didn't write for 3 years. When he finally did, he wrote a single line. I met myself in a room that didn't know me, and no one found that room again. There are mirrors in the tower. Not many, just 1 or 2. But they don't reflect what you're doing, only what you're thinking. People have seen themselves sleeping, crying, waiting, even when they were standing still. One mirror cracked when touched. Inside the glass was not a reflection, but a stairwell. Curving downward, flickering, familiar, then it faded. Some rooms breathe, not loudly, not like lungs. It's just soft movements in the air, in and out, like the stone remembers being warm. It never is. The tower is always cold. Even in July, even in fire, it's not immune to weather, just refuses to acknowledge it. A traveler once lit a candle inside the base chamber. The flame tilted sideways, toward the wall. He followed it, found nothing. But when he turned around, the room had changed. No candle, no matches, just dust and a faint imprint of knees on the floor.
Ow.
He left without speaking. Some believe the tower chooses how it's seen. No 2 visitors ever truly stand in the same place. The stone shifts slightly, The air thickens or thins, and the rooms you walk through are shaped by what you've forgotten. There's a small wooden door on the third level. It's always locked. But one visitor placed their hand on it and began to cry. They didn't know why. When asked later, they said, "I felt like someone I loved was on the other side, but not alive, not waiting, just remembering me back." Another woman sat in the center chamber for exactly 1 hour. She recited every mistake she ever made. Out loud, she said it felt like a weight lifted. But when she turned to leave, she found a message carved into the wall, one that hadn't been there before. It read, "We heard you." No one could say who he was. The deeper you go, the less sound there is, not even your own heartbeat. It's not even breath. Just stillness, so complete, it presses against your skin. One man screamed, not from fear, but to test the silence. The sound never came back, not even as an echo. He left the tower and never spoke again. People ask, is it haunted? But haunted by what? Ghosts don't stay this long. Stories don't hold this still. Perhaps it's not haunted at all. Perhaps it's just full of things left behind. Thoughts too heavy to carry, grief too quiet to release. One child who lived nearby dreamed of a narrow window. She'd never seen the tower, but her drawing matched it perfectly. She said there was a girl inside. The girl never moved, just sat, looking out, and sometimes blinked. The drawing showed something else too, small, almost hidden, a second face behind the girl, in the dark, smiling. That window no longer exists, or perhaps it never did. The tower doesn't tell stories, it holds them, like water in stone, like breath in winter. And if you listen too long, you may hear one form around you, not spoken, not heard, just felt, like memory pressed into fog. And when you walk away, you may not remember the details, but something inside you will stay quiet for a very long time. It's not scared, just aware that something once stood near you, chose to let you go. Some say the tower is a place of punishment. Others say it's a sanctuary. But most agree on this. Whatever it was meant to be, it changed. A traveler from Lisbon once said, "It doesn't remember what it was built for, so now it remembers everything else." People bring their own silence with them. The tower just makes it louder. On one visit, a man entered with anger in his chest. By the time he reached the second floor, it was gone. Not resolved, not healed, just removed. It's like something else had taken it, or needed it more. A quiet teacher once spent 3 hours there. When she left, she said, "It took something, but gave me nothing in return." Later, she corrected herself. "No, it gave me quiet." The tower accepts anything you won't say aloud. It doesn't ask. It just waits for the moment you almost speak. And then it keeps it for you. That's why many never return. Not because they fear the tower, but because they left something inside, fear what it became. There's a well at the base level, dry, shallow, stone-lined. If you drop a coin in, it never makes a sound. Not a click, not a clink, nothing. Some say the coin doesn't fall. It simply vanishes, as if swallowed by something deeper than depth. A woman once lowered a thread into the well. When she pulled it back, it was shorter than before. No one could explain how. The tower changes based on how long you stay. At 5 minutes, you feel cold. At 15, you feel watched. At an hour, you feel known. Some walls breathe warmth. Others feel like the inside of a grave. Not everything there is old. Someone once found a wristwatch ticking on the ground. It had a name etched inside. That name belonged to a man who went missing in 1963. The watch was still warm. On the 4th floor, there's a window, but only from the outside. Inside, there's no trace, no opening, no light. Only a patch of wall colder than the rest. A visitor placed their palm there and gasped. She said it felt like something was still looking through. An archaeologist claimed to find carved symbols on the outer stone. They were faint, almost vanished. No language he recognized. Only one word repeated over and over. Remain, or a command, or a memory etched too deep to forget. Not all sounds inside are imagined. One man heard soft tapping, measured, repeating. He followed it up a narrow stairwell. When he reached the top, it stopped. Only a chair was there. Nothing else. When he turned to leave, the tapping began again. From below, the tower doesn't chase, but it does remind. Some say it's built on an ancient site of mourning, a place where grief became heavy enough to shape stone. Others say it was a monastery, till it wasn't. Till the prayers stopped making sense. One legend tells of a monk who sealed himself inside to hear God better. When others returned for him, they found the door locked from the inside. In a single phrase carved above it, he answered. The monk was never found. There are no birds near the tower, not even in the trees. But sometimes feathers are found. On windowsills, beneath door frames, inside locked drawers. Always clean. Always left behind. One girl found a feather tucked in her book weeks after visiting. She hadn't brought it home. No one knew how it got there, but the book it marked was about memory loss. Some believe the tower stores every unfinished moment, or every unsent letter, every goodbye left unsaid, or your truth buried too deep to speak. You don't feel it all at once, but it lingers. Like mist on your skin long after rain has passed. You won't hear voices, you'll hear silence, shaped like someone breathing beside you. You won't see ghosts, you'll see shadows that feel too familiar to follow. And when you walk away, you'll think, nothing happened. Then later, in a moment you didn't expect, you'll pause, feel the weight, and remember something you never said. The tower has no bells, but some say they've heard ringing, soft, distant, fading, not joyful, not mournful, just patient. Like a sound that doesn't want to be remembered but can't be forgotten. One traveler followed the sound, thinking it was a shepherd's bell. He walked for hours, but the sound never grew louder, never changed. Eventually it stopped. The moment he touched the tower's wall, there was no shepherd, no bell, just silence, and a deep ache in the back of his mind, like he'd interrupted something sacred. Some say the tower dreams, that it relives the lives of those who enter. Not all at once, scene by scene, breath by breath. A girl visited during autumn. She said she saw her own bedroom, inside one of the tower's upper rooms. Same bed sheets, same half-read book. Even the window creaked the same way. Shran. She didn't go back, but her dreams changed. Now she hears stone groaning at night. A man once stayed for exactly 21 minutes. He left with one white strand of hair that hadn't been there before. He was 27. Some staircases seem to end. But when you turn around, they continue behind you. Like the tower changes direction. When it isn't being watched, a camera crew tried to film a documentary. They stayed for a full day. When they reviewed the footage, every clip after the third hour had no sound, just static. And one whisper, too low to understand. They played it backwards. The whisper said, "We didn't want to be seen." On the northern wall, there's a scorch mark. Deep, jagged, old. Locals say lightning once struck the tower in a storm. But the stone didn't crack. Instead, the air around it stayed hot for 3 days. Birds avoided it for a year. The mark is still warm. Even in winter. Sometimes people find names scratched into stone. It's always first names, no last. Some match known disappearances. Others are names no one remembers, yet the handwriting always looks familiar to the person reading it. One explorer found her own name. It was carved in a shaky line beneath a small archway. She never told anyone, but she never smiled again in photographs. The tower has no throne, no chapel, no graveyard. But it holds grief like a cathedral. Wide, silent, sacred in the way pain becomes holy when no one speaks of it. One room has a single chain hanging from the ceiling. It doesn't swing, even when you touch it. But some visitors swear it moved when they blinked, not side to side, upward. There are no clocks inside, but you'll feel time. Much heavy in your bones, soft behind your eyes, pressed into your thoughts like fog. A researcher once wore a wristwatch with GPS tracking. When she left the tower, the device showed her standing still the entire time. But her notepad had 17 pages of writing. The handwriting wasn't hers. Children nearby have drawn the tower from memory. None of them have seen it, not knowingly. But the details match. Cracked stone, no roof, tiny black window high above. Always just one window. When asked who it was, The children say, "She's been there forever. She watches so she doesn't forget." Inside, some rooms echo differently. Not the sounds you make, but ones that haven't happened yet. You clap, and the echo comes before the sound. Like time is folding forward. Someone once knocked on a wall. The knock replied before they touched it, as they left immediately. The tower keeps no records, but it never loses track. Not of footsteps, not of names, not of moments. If you whisper to it, it remembers. If you weep inside it, it listens. But it does not judge. It only holds. And sometimes releases. But what it gives back isn't what you gave. It's softer, older, changed. Like a story told too many times by someone who was never really there. You leave the tower thinking you understand something you don't, but that's the trick. The tower doesn't explain. It reminds you weren't the first. You won't be the last, but you'll remember. Even if you try not to. The tower is not abandoned. It's simply not inhabited. It's a difference. Abandoned places are empty. The tower is not. It holds. It breathes. It listens. One man brought a compass inside. It spun wildly for exactly 1 minute, then stopped. Not north, not south, just pointing inward. He dropped it on the floor and left without picking it up. There are no records of prisoners inside the tower. No official ones. But some say it was once used for confinement. Not of the body, but of the mind. Those who were too broken to stand trial, too forgotten to bury, too dangerous to remember. Some rooms are shaped like cages without bars. You stand inside and feel still, like time paused when you entered. Like nothing outside the room exists anymore. One visitor stepped in and felt peace. He didn't want to leave. They had to pull him out. His eyes were closed the whole time, smiling. Another man found a note folded in a cracked drawer, handwritten, old, it said. He stopped screaming after the third day. There was no name, no signature, just that. Some parts of the tower smelled like lavender, soft, unexpected, only for a moment, and only when alone. People have walked in circles on the second floor without realizing. They pass the same pillar again and again. Each time something has changed. A scratch, a symbol, a small red thread caught in the stone. One woman counted her steps, exactly 82 to the wall. When she turned, it took 85 to return. She tried again, then again. Each time, the numbers changed. She stopped counting. A scholar once claimed the tower mimics its visitors. Not physically, emotionally. That it becomes more sorrowful when you are grieving, more hollow when you are empty, more still when you are calm. It shapes itself to match the quiet inside you, not to comfort, just to understand. No one has found the center of the tower, because no one agrees on where it begins. For some, the spiral starts at the base. For others, the top feels like the starting point. One man claimed the center was a doorway without a frame. He touched it, felt nothing. But afterward, he couldn't dream anymore. Only silence when he slept. Others report the opposite, vivid slow dreams. Stone hallways, unfamiliar names, rooms they've never entered. One dreamer saw a girl writing with her finger in dust. The word was, wait, there's a corridor where time loops. It lasts exactly 7 seconds. Walk through it, and it resets. Drop something. It's gone. Speak. Your voice vanishes. A man entered with a stopwatch. He stayed for 4 minutes. When he emerged, the stopwatch said, 0 o'clock. He'd written something on his arm. Don't look left. He didn't remember writing it. People rarely get injured inside, but those who do heal faster than they should. One woman twisted her ankle on the stairs. An hour later, she walked normally, but her voice was hoarse for a week. A child once visited with her father. She didn't say much, but when they returned home, she drew pictures, not of the tower, of what was beneath it. Long tunnels, shaped like ribs, full of eyes, none open, all waiting. They never went back. In a small alcove near the upper level, someone once found a book. No title, no author. Its pages. Every single one blank, except one. It read, "There's no record of you. Make one." The book turned to ash when they closed it. There are no statues inside, but there are outlines. shadows on stone. Figures carved so shallow they're almost not there. Some look human, others don't. When light hits them just right, it looks like they're moving, only slightly. Only enough to notice, but never enough to prove. You leave the tower with fewer thoughts than when you entered, not lighter, just less cluttered. Like someone folded your mind and tucked the edges in. Most people describe the same feeling. I'm not sure what changed, but something did. The tower is not evil, but it is ancient, and it remembers longer than anything alive. If you offer it sorrow, it listens. If you offer it silence, it opens. And if you offer it fear, it keeps it. Very gently, like a memory you forgot, but never truly lost. No one has ever seen the tower being built. No bricks, no blueprints, no history. It simply was. The stone is older than memory, but the air feels recent, as if someone just stepped out. One visitor arrived during rain. The drops fell around the tower, but not on it. The tower wasn't dry, just untouched. Like the sky forgot it existed. Farmer once claimed the tower moved slightly every decade. Not much, just an inch. But always west. When asked how he knew, he said, "It used to line up with the hill. Now it doesn't." There's a corner in the upper floor where shadows gather before the sun rises. Not during sunrise, before it. They leave the moment light touches the edge of the stairwell. No one knows where they go. Some visitors feel weightless inside, as if gravity is weaker. Others feel pressed down like standing in deep water. It changes, depending on what you carry inside you. One hallway smells like winter, even in August. Not snow, not frost, just the memory of cold. A musician once played a note on her flute near the central arch. Sound repeated 4 times, each softer than the last, but no one was with her. She stopped playing, but the echo returned the next day, just once, while she was sleeping. On the 3rd level, a wall bears hundreds of scratches. Not writing, not art, just lines. One after another, always grouped in 5s, like someone was counting. They stop near a corner where no light reaches. Some say if you place your hand there, it feels warm. Some say cold. But I'll agree, it feels watched. One man touched it and dreamed of bells. Heavy rusted bells ringing under the ocean. Couldn't swim, but in the dream, he didn't need to. The tower doesn't trap people, but some choose not to leave. A legend tells of a woman who entered in silence, alone. She was never seen again. But 2 years later, a child heard humming near the tower's base. Soft, gentle, exactly like the lullaby that woman used to sing. There's a locked drawer in the west. Chamber it cannot be opened. But every few years, something different appears on top of it. A hairpin, a button, a ribbon, never rusted, never dusty. No one ever sees them appear. Their one wall seems to breathe. Just once a day, single exhale, long and tired, always at the same hour. Dusk, a visitor wrote. It sighed, like it remembered me. Not all things inside are visible. Some are felt, like being followed by a thought, one you didn't think, like remembering a conversation that never happened, like hearing your own name in your head, spoken in a stranger's voice. There's a room that smells like fire, but nothing has burned there, not even dust. A fire watcher visited once. He stood silently, breathing the air, and whispered, "It knows what fire can take." No one knows what he meant. He never went near a flame again. Some guests report flickering, not lights, candles. Just the sense that reality blinks for a moment. Like the tower is unsure whether you're really there. Like it's checking. And sometimes, deciding. There's a belief that the tower chooses who remembers it. Many forget it exists at all. Maps fade, its photos blur. Stories trail off mid-sentence. You may walk through the woods again and never find it, even if you try. One woman tattooed coordinates on her wrist. She visited once, tried to return a year later, but nothing was there, just trees. When she checked the tattoo, the numbers had changed. She doesn't speak of the tower anymore, but sometimes in sleep, she traces the shape of a doorway in the air. People say the tower isn't haunted, it's haunting, not like a spirit, more like a melody stuck in your mind, or a smell that reminds you of something forgotten. It doesn't want your fear. It wants your attention, even just for a moment, even just long enough for it to remember you back. The tower doesn't announce itself. It doesn't call, doesn't glow, doesn't move. It waits. And somehow, that's more terrifying, because waiting means it knows you'll come eventually. A boy once visited as part of a school group. The others laughed, took photos, wandered around. He stood very still, staring at the stairwell, then whispered, "It's quieter now." No one knew what he meant. They hadn't been there before, but he had in a dream. He swore he'd never told anyone, not even himself. There are carvings on the second stairwell, not in the stone, in the light, only visible at dusk. Soft lines. Loops. A name in a language no one reads anymore. It's different for every visitor. One woman saw her mother's maiden name. Another saw a word she once wrote in a childhood diary and forgot. The tower doesn't give answers, just reflections. Not of the face, but of the mind. A mirror on the first floor once showed a man something he hadn't done. Not yet. When he blinked, the image was gone. But the guilt stayed. A candle was once left burning in a corner for 6 days. It never melted. The wall behind it blackened anyway. Some visitors say the tower breathes only when no one is looking. That if you close your eyes for a few seconds, you can feel the air change. Like someone just took a deep breath right beside you. There are no written records from inside the tower. But stories escape in pieces, in dreams, in sketches, in things people say when they aren't thinking, like a girl who whispered, "The tower told me its name, but I promised not to say it." She didn't smile when she said it. She looked tired. Some believe the tower predates language. It wasn't meant to be seen, only felt, and that it formed where the first secret was buried too deep to decay. A scientist tried to test the air pressure in the lower floors. She said it changed depending on her emotions. Anger made the air thin. Fear made it still. Grief made it hum. The device she used broke on the third visit. No reason. Just stopped working. People describe the tower in strange ways. It's heavier than it looks. It's older than forgetting. It's the sound between raindrops. It's an always, it knew I was coming. There's no center in the traditional sense. No core. No heart. But some say there's a room on the top floor with nothing in it. Just a single chair. If you sit there, you'll hear footsteps behind you. Slow, barefoot, familiar. When you turn, there's nothing, but the floorboards are warmer than they were. One visitor left her watch behind by accident. It was old, barely working. Months later, it arrived by post. No return address. Still ticking. The time was wrong, but only by 13 minutes. She swears that's the exact time she spent alone in the tower. A pale blue ribbon once appeared on the outer door handle. No one saw it arrive. No one claimed it. But it stayed for 3 days and vanished. A man who saw it said, "That's from my sister's hair. She died 30 years ago." Another visitor walked to the edge of the tower and began speaking in a language no one knew. She didn't stop for 10 minutes. When she finished, she fainted. When she woke, she had no memory of the words. But the audio recording remains. No one has decoded it. It ends with a laugh, quiet, dry, gentle, but not hers. They say the tower remembers what the world forgets, not history, emotion, regret. The things we pretend never happened, the thoughts we never said aloud, the person we almost became. It collects these like dust, softly, slowly, until the air grows thick with the weight of things not spoken. And then it gives a piece of that silence back to you, not to punish, not to heal, just to remind. You are part of the forgetting now, too. The tower never sleeps. It only rests its weight on time. A cartographer once set out to map the forest. He walked north, compass steady, pencil poised. At midday, he saw the tower's outline. He marked its position on parchment. When he tried to leave, every path curved back. The sun slid west. The outline followed. He tore the page from his notebook in frustration. That night, beside his campfire, the sheet was blank. No ink, no lines. But the parchment felt heavier than paper. A seamstress visited for curiosity. She carried bright thread in her coat pocket. Inside, she found a crack shaped like a smile. She slipped a length of gold thread into the gap. to stitch the stone, she joked. Years later, she opened her sewing box. The spools were intact, except the gold, missing, like a seam removed. On the third stairwell, footsteps echoed twice, once for each boot, and once more for the thought of turning back. Some claim the tower keeps its own weather. Clouds linger above it, even in clear skies. Not storm clouds, just low, thoughtful mist that never weights the ground. An entomologist looked for insects, expected beetles in cracked mortar, moths in dust. He found none. But he did hear wings. Slow, deliberate, larger than butterflies, too large. He followed the sound and met only silence, until he felt a breeze from nowhere, as if something large had just flown past. Near the western wall, a doorway appears on foggy mornings. It opens outward onto a dark garden. Stone benches, a dry fountain. The air smells of rosemary. Many step across the threshold. Few recall details afterward, only the herbs scent, lingering like a half-forgotten hymn. A psychologist arrived with a tape recorder. She asked the tower, "What do you need?" Silence. She left the device running overnight. Playback revealed a single answer, faint as dust. Patience. The word stretched, elastic. Until the spool ended. The tape snapped. The machine never worked again. Children nearby sometimes play tower tag. One child stands still, eyes closed, arms out. The others circle and whisper fears they've never spoken. When they finish the circle, the still child names a fear, always one just whispered. No one knows how. They call that round the stone turn. An astronomer charted stars from the roofless top. Her telescope refused to focus. Stars blurred like tears. She sketched constellations by memory instead. Back home, she compared them to charts. Her drawings matched no known sky, but a pattern. Carved on the tower's outer base, 8 lights spiraling inward, ending at a single point. She never spoke of her discovery. She changed fields, studying tides rather than heavens. There is a basin on the second floor, empty, cracked. If you stand beside it at dawn, you hear dripping. If you place your hand inside, you feel thirst your own, but magnified until your tongue forgets language. Drink later, and water tastes like stone, cold, patient, older than rivers. One winter, a monk traced the spiral stair backward. Descending in prayer, eyes closed, counted 99 steps to the bottom. Records from centuries earlier mentioned 96. "The tower is learning," he wrote. "It adds steps when it needs more room for quiet." A letter surfaced in an antique shop, unsigned. I tried to confess within those walls. But confession requires 2 souls. The tower gives only echoes. The paper smelled of lavender. The ink never dried. Some nights, villagers see a candle glow in the highest slit window. They know no floor exists there. Still, they leave a small loaf at the forest edge, an old habit, older than maps. By morning, the loaf is gone, replaced by 3 black seeds pressed into the soil. No one plants them. They never sprout. Yet the forest thickens each year. A violinist stepped inside at sunset. She played a single note, a low, trembling G. The pitch lingered, folding over itself, growing deeper until it was silent again.
Outside, she found a new string in her keys.
Gut-colored, finely wound tuned so tight it hummed without bow or fingers. Some corridors appear only in reflection. Mirrors hidden beneath dust, windows of dark glass. Walk past them, and you glimpse a hallway you cannot reach, where all the lamps are lit and someone sets a table for 2. If you turn back, dust hides the mirror again. But you feel the weight of an unfinished meal. Warm bread, untouched water, conversation paused mid-sentence. What the tower keeps, it keeps gently. No force. No chains. Just the offer to forget, and the heavier offer to remember in silence. When you leave, you might touch the wall in passing. It will feel exactly as stone should feel. Yet your palm will warm, and you'll know the tower has learned your name. You may forget the journey. The tower will not. It waits. And waiting is enough. The first time you see the tower, it looks distant. Even if you're close. Like it hasn't fully arrived yet. Stand still long enough, and it begins to sharpen. Not in shape, but but in feeling. It's like remembering something you've never seen before. One man described it as looking at a house you used to live in before you were born. It doesn't glow, but light behaves strangely near its walls. It dims without darkening, softens without fading. Photographs blur slightly, even on modern phones, not distorted. It's just tired, like the tower doesn't want to be captured, only witnessed. There are no guards, no warnings, it's just a silence that acts like a lock. A boy once knocked on the stone, twice, then said, "It knocked back, but inside my chest." Some report hearing stories when they press an ear to the wall, not in words, in tone, low, steady, circular, like a lullaby with no melody. You leave and can't repeat it. You try, and only silence comes. The tower has never burned, not once. Even when lightning struck its highest corner, as the trees around it turned to ash, the tower just sighed, smoke for a day. Visitor once lit a match near the base. The flame leaned left, always left. Even when the wind didn't blow. She followed the tilt through a hallway she hadn't noticed before. She found nothing at the end, except herself. Reflected in the window, but younger. People say it shows you what you've lost, but not where it went. There's a tile in the southern chamber, worn smooth, like footsteps used to circle it. It's always that tile, always clockwise. A metal ring once lay in the dust nearby, old, thin, bent. The initials inside were unreadable, but familiar, like something once held and long let go. You may smell candle wax even when none burn. A soft, sweet scent. Warm, then gone. A writer once called it a place where memory decays in reverse. You don't forget, you become the thing forgotten. There are symbols scratched in some beams. Most are circles, some crossed lines. A few are handprints, too small to be adult. Always left hands. One child touched a faded mark and said, "She's still waiting for her name." No one asked who she was. But the air felt too thin for questions. Some windows show only fog, even in sunlight. But if you place your hand near the glass, it feels warm, like someone is standing on the other side, breathing. There's a door with no handle, just a keyhole, too shallow to hold anything. A man once pressed a coin into it, not to unlock it, just to leave something behind. A year later, he returned. The coin was gone. But on the floor lay a feather, the exact color of his childhood pet. He didn't touch it. Some rooms sound different. It's not because of echo, because of presence, like someone just finished speaking, and you arrived a second too late. You won't find clocks, but time still passes, measured in thought and breath. In the way your shadow begins to flicker near the stairs, there's no known reason why the tower was built. It appears on no royal maps, belongs to no kingdom, a landless structure, a timeless wound. Some say it existed before the land around it. Others say the land exists because of the tower. A woman walked its spiral stairs, whispering her grandmother's name. At the top, she found a comb, wooden, simple, carved with the same name. Her sleep became still, her dreams soft, her voice quieter. Visitors often forget why they came. They remember only after they leave, and by then, the reason no longer matters. The tower accepts arrivals without purpose. It offers nothing, takes nothing, except perhaps a little of your stillness. A botanist once planted a seed outside the main arch, a single nightshade. It never bloomed. But years later, a vine with identical leaves began growing inside the tower. No soil, no sunlight. It's just life. Silent and sideways. There is no last room. It's only rooms that stop asking you to follow. There is no final step. It's only one that feels like the right place to turn around. And when you do, the way out will be there. Exactly where you left it. Exactly when it chooses. You won't be the same. But you'll recognize your reflection again. Eventually. The tower never calls you. It waits until you're quiet enough to notice it. No roads lead directly to it. But once you've seen it once, your feet remember. A girl wandered from her family's cabin in the woods. She followed the sound of dripping water, though the forest was dry. She came back hours later with a handful of smooth stones. When asked where she found them, she said, I picked them from the air. Some stones inside the tower hum when held. Not to everyone. Just to those who bring silence with them. You don't always see your reflection in the windows. Sometimes you see someone sitting where you stood. Not a stranger, perhaps. But older, tired, watching. On the 5th floor, there's a door painted shut. The paint is old, gray, uneven, still slightly tacky to the touch. A historian chipped at it with a penknife. Beneath the paint were fingerprints, pressed deep into the wood. Child-sized, she stopped digging. A whisper once echoed from a crack in the east wall. Not a voice, a breath, stretched into shape. It said, "Almost remembered me. There's a room without a floor. It's just beams, and the long drop beneath." But the fall doesn't end in stone. Visitors who've dropped things here, no sound, no thud, just quiet. A lantern dropped once. And hours later, its light appeared, beneath a closed door, 2 levels down. No one opened the door. The glow faded slowly, like breath cooling on glass. A botanist once left dried herbs at the tower's base, lavender, sage, rosemary. When he returned a week later, they were gone. But inside, near a window ledge, he found a small woven bundle of the same herbs, tied with a strand of his own hair. He'd never brought offerings again. There's a drawer that opens only when your eyes are closed. No one knows what's inside. Most people can't keep their eyes shut long enough to reach it. They always feel watched. A musician set down a metronome on the top step. It began ticking in reverse, faster, then slower, and it stopped entirely, even as its pendulum kept swinging. When he took it home, it no longer worked. But some nights, it ticked once. At exactly the moment he woke up from a dream. He could never remember the dream, only that it felt unfinished. Not every room has walls. Some are made of sound. Stand still long enough, and you'll hear its shape. A drip, footstep, a soft knock that doesn't repeat. An archivist tried to record these sounds. Her audio file captured silence, then her own voice saying, "She. You'll scare it." She had no memory of speaking. There's a place behind the western stair that's colder than the rest. Not freezing, just hot. Quiet in a sharper way. You step near it, and your thoughts slow down. You forget your name first, then your age, then what time is. A child stood in that spot once and began humming a song no one recognized. Her parents said she hadn't sung since her sister died. They asked her what the song was. She said, "It's how the tower remembers her. A cracked lantern near the entry door flickers randomly. It's not lit. But sometimes it glows, like it remembers being useful once. Some say the tower reshapes itself based on need. Oh, if you're lost, it closes doors. If you're afraid, it shortens hallways. If you're grieving, it waits, it widens, it gives you time." One man brought a compass and 2 candles. The compass spun constantly. The candles never lit, but melted anyway. He swore he'd only stayed 20 minutes, but his notebook showed 3 days' worth of entries. All in his handwriting, none in his words. There's an old hook by a broken window. Nothing hangs there now. But everyone who sees it thinks the same thing. It used to hold something important. When a bell rings outside the tower, a real one in the distance, the tower doesn't react. But afterward, one of its doors is always open. Just one, and only for a little while. A visitor once walked into a hallway that hadn't been there before. It was lined with coats, hundreds in different sizes, different times, all smelling faintly of home, not his home, but someone's. He didn't touch them. But one coat had a stitched name, A.L. That night he dreamed of being hugged by someone he'd never met. He woke up crying.
Ow!
The tower doesn't answer questions, but it leaves you with better ones. You enter searching for mystery. You leave holding something heavier than that. Yourself, seen through silence. The tower keeps no schedule. It does not open at dawn nor close at dusk. It exists, always in between, not timeless. It's just unwilling to be timed. A visitor once wore a digital watch inside. It blinked nonsense. 88 to 88, then nothing. She left an hour later. The watch never worked again. She still wears it. She says it hums when she's sad. There is a window near the western pillar. At sunset, it reflects a room that doesn't exist. Wooden floors, a chair, a plate, always the same plate. always empty, unless it's raining. Then the reflection shows a cup of warm tea. Steam curls from it, even though the glass is cold. No one knows where the tea is brewed. A man once entered, humming a nursery rhyme. As he walked, the tower echoed the tune back, but it used a different melody. Older, slower. By the time he reached the top floor, he'd forgotten the original tune. Only the tower's version remained. He taught it to his daughter. Now she hums it when she's nervous. The tower has no throne room, but one chamber feels like it should have won. A circular platform, stone too smooth for accident. People stand there and feel chosen. Then they feel guilty for feeling that. A mirror stands cracked in a back hall. It doesn't reflect what's in front of it, only what's been left behind. One visitor saw her childhood bike. Another saw the dog he let run away. Another saw a version of herself, still holding someone she lost. The mirror never shows up in photographs. A doorframe exists without a door. If you walk through it, your ears pop. Just once, and everything sounds slightly deeper until you leave. Musicians have stood inside and sung. Their voices come out warmer. One violinist cried after a single note. She said it sounded like her mother saying her name. There's a bench in the garden ruins behind the tower. Only moss grows there now. Sit on it long enough and you'll feel like you're waiting for someone, even if you don't know who. Some say that's where the tower watches from. Not its walls. Not its halls. From that bench, quiet, waiting. Like an old friend giving you time to speak first. A visitor found a small wooden bead near the entrance. It smelled of cinnamon. She kept it in her pocket. A month later, she found it split in half, revealing a tiny map inside, drawn in red ink. The lines led to the tower. Even though she was already there, she burned it. The ashes smelled like pine needles and grief. Sometimes the tower offers a gift, a button, a feather, folded note that reads only yes. The gift is always small, always meaningless, till it's not. A man once received a pebble. He carried it for years. One day he dropped it in a river, by accident. The current pulled it fast. Gone, he cried. He never knew why. In the southern stairwell, you might hear a heartbeat. Not your own. Slow, measured, louder as you descend. It vanishes after the sixth step. No one has ever found what lies beneath. Or maybe they did and chose not to return. Some try to map the tower's interior. The maps never match. Not because the tower changes, but because it remembers you differently each time. A hallway for the grieving, a door for the brave, a silence for the lost. The tower doesn't punish, but it doesn't forget. An old letter was found carved into a desk. I only meant to look. Now I carry what I saw. The carving was deep, clean new. But the desk was centuries old. There's a single brick on the third floor that's out of place. Smoother, paler. Someone once pulled it free. Inside was a strand of hair, braided tightly. No name, no story. When she touched it, she said, I knew her. The braid turned to ash in her palm. On cold days, the tower hums. Not like a machine, like a tired voice in another room. It's trying not to wake you. A young boy stood at the gate once and asked, Do you want me to come in? A gust of wind answered, said okay, and walked away. The door creaked softly behind him, like it disagreed. You leave the tower differently. You don't remember how. You just do. And after, the world feels heavier in some places. Lighter in others. Like someone rearranged your past while you weren't looking. It's not cruelly. Just carefully. The tower never reveals all at once. Only in fragments. Like dust catching light at just the right angle. A traveler once counted how many steps led to the top. She said 83. She returned a year later. This time, 87. When she tried a third time, she stopped counting. She said it felt like the steps were counting me. Near the northern arch, there's a stone with a shallow bowl carved into it. Rain doesn't gather there. But once someone placed their ring inside and turned away. When they looked back, it was gone. A single dried flower lay in its place, a flower that no one could name. The tower doesn't echo every sound, only the ones you mean. One man called out, Is anyone there? Silence. Then he whispered, I miss her. And the walls whispered back, So do I. There's a small window that faces nothing but bark. The trunk of a tree, so close, it blocks all light. But when you look again, sometimes it's not a tree, it's a curtain behind it. Movement, always just out of focus. A woman once stood there and swore she saw someone writing on the glass, from the inside. Words written backward. When she traced them in reverse, they read, "Forgive me. There are no animals in the tower, no birds, no mice. But sometimes feathers appear near the windowsills, soft, pale, clean, still warm. A broken chair rests in the southeast room. No one remembers placing it there. It creaks at night, not when sat on, just when no one is around. One visitor tried to fix it. Halfway through, the wood split. Inside the crack, a folded page from a book, unreadable, but it smelled like sea air and candle wax. She kept it. She hasn't dreamed since. There's a mirror that reflects your face a second too late, just enough to notice. Just enough to make you wonder if the person looking back is still you. In the dust beneath it, someone once wrote, "It blinked when I didn't." An attic room, locked most of the year, sometimes swings open during windless days. Inside, only a cradle. No child, no dust. No decay. Just the faintest hum. Like a lullaby sung without a mouth. A carpenter once entered the tower and spent hours sketching its corners. He returned home and built a chair without realizing he decopied one of the tower S shapes. His clients say it's the most comfortable chair they've ever sat in. But no one sits in it for long. They all say the same thing. I feel like someone else already did. A ladder once leaned against the tower for a week. No one knows who put it there. On the 7th day it fell with no sound and was never seen again. A boy once left a letter in the cracks of the foundation. When he returned weeks later, the letter was gone. But a new one had appeared, written in his own handwriting. He couldn't read it. It was in a language he didn't know. He folded it into his pocket. The next day, he started sleep-talking in the same language. In the rain, the tower doesn't get wet. It just looks heavier. There is a room that smells like endings, not death, just finality. Like the end of a conversation you didn't realize mattered. One woman entered that room, sat down, and said nothing. She stayed for 20 minutes. When she stood, she said, "I finally heard him say goodbye. No one asked who she meant. There's a hatch on the rooftop floor, locked with no keyhole. Some say it leads downward. Others say outward, to something older than time. No one has opened it. But once a year, on the same night, frost forms a pattern around it. A spiral, like a fingerprint, or a question. You don't leave the tower the same way twice. Sometimes through the main arch. Sometimes through a hallway that no longer exists. Sometimes you find yourself outside before realizing you ever stepped through the door. The tower is not a prison, but it knows what prisons feel like. It doesn't hold you in, shows you what you already carry, and then it steps back, letting you decide if you'll keep carrying it. You won't remember the last step. Only that it was easier than the first. The door behind you doesn't close, doesn't need to. It simply waits, as it always has. The tower doesn't say goodbye, but as you walk away, you feel lighter, not because something left you, but because something stayed behind. A piece of sorrow, a name unspoken, a memory you were tired of carrying. The tower keeps them now, not to hoard, not to harm, just to hold. The wind shifts behind you, not stronger, just cleaner, like breath after tears. You wonder if it will call you again. It won't, but you may hear it anyway in dreams, in pauses, in the soft sound of your own thoughts at night. We'll see the shape of its walls when shadows fall a certain way. You'll find yourself tracing stairwells and notebooks. Doors that don't belong to any building, you know. You'll forget for a moment where you saw them, then you'll remember, and you'll smile quietly. The tower doesn't need visitors, but it welcomes them, especially the ones who never say why they came. Some came to forget, some to remember, some came only to listen. It's all left different. Even if they didn't know it yet, they'll tell no one the full story. Only fragments, a hallway, a mirror, feather on a windowsill, and even then they won't believe you. But that's fine. The tower never needed to be believed, only visited. One day you'll walk a different path, new place, new trees. You'll pause for no reason at all, and something in the air will feel familiar. You won't see the tower. Not this time. But you'll feel it watching, warmly, like an old friend. Who remembers exactly how long you stayed and exactly what you left behind? It will hold those pieces forever, not locked away, not forgotten, just kept quietly in the deepest room that no one speaks of. And when someone else arrives empty-handed, heavy-hearted, the tower will open that room, let in the light, and offer them the thing you once left, so they too can walk away just a little bit lighter. That's how the tower lives. Not by stone, not by shadow, but by memory. Passed gently from soul to soul. No flames, no endings, only silence. In the whisper of a place that never truly lets go.